Welcome back everybody to the 14th episode in TerraFirmaGreg. In the last episode we finally built the double reformate production line, and as you can see we've already hit the 1000 buckets inside of this super tank, and as of now the system has been shut down for the simple reason that as of now we are not producing enough wood to keep this up. As you can see, I've slightly improved our wood farm. I've added a few inner rows, but that's something I'm gonna have to change soon because this is just not big enough. But instead, something else that we can do is start using sticks, because if we take a packer, we could make stick bundles, and these things can be burnt in the pyrolysis oven the same way you would with logs. But to start off, the first thing I want to do is replace our synge production line. Currently, the only purpose this thing has is feeding syngas, or was feeding syngas, into this chemical reactor, which was reacting it with silver dust to produce methane. And instead here I've got the materials to make an MV centrifuge, as well as some gas turbines and a lot of other stuff, but that's for later. And that's because what I want to do now is replace this system with Kapukud centrifuging. We can now fully detach this system and instead connect it to the reformate line. So now here we're getting reformate. If you look at the recipes for Kapok, centrifuging it produces methane, as well as a bunch of materials. Most importantly, the thing I care about is sticky resin and raw rubber pulp. So this is basically gonna replace half the system from our rubber production line, which I also don't think we really care about right now. But the main reason I want this is because the sticky resin is gonna be a source of glue, which I currently don't have a passive line of, and I keep finding myself needing more and more of this, so I thought I might as well start producing it passively. And everything else is just an added bonus. Instead, the other machinery you saw crafted into those crates are gonna be the machines we're gonna use to start producing plastic. That's, I think, everything we need. It's not gonna be much, and I'm gonna explain what we're gonna do soon, but before that I want to set up the centrifuging. So if we go here, we can simply, I guess, come from behind here. And I think this takes 20 seconds. And here, the chances of getting everything is kind of low. Like, it's a 50% chance for the rubber pulp itself, and then it's going down from there for everything else. We don't really care about the pulp or the plant ball. And now, that officially makes our synge production line obsolete. We no longer need any of this. This has also stopped producing a while ago, because the ovens kept filling up with charcoal, and I think it's time to actually take this down. Alright, that's it. The synge production line no longer exists. The only part I feel like I should be reusing is gonna be the bronze tank, because this thing contains 4000 buckets compared to the 1000 of this basic super tank, and instead of outputting everything from the super tank itself, output it from the bronze tank and into the bronze tank from the super tank. Okay, now everything is connected properly, and this also means I'm probably going to move all of this machinery back against the wall. In the meantime, here you can see we've already got a bunch of resin, a bunch of pulp and stuff like that. And now it's finally time to start producing some plastic. To do that, we can simply work backwards from this quest here. We're gonna need to make polyethylene. To make it, we're gonna need ethylene, mix it with oxygen. Ethylene, instead, can easily be produced with ethanol and sulfuric acid. Ethanol is really simple to make. We are just gonna need an MV distillery to distill biomass into ethanol, as well as carbon dust, but we don't care about this. And the biomass can simply be made with breweries and any kind of plant, basically, for which I'm going to use saplings. This is gonna take 40 seconds, and I'm gonna make 5 of these, because these only consume 3 AU per tick, which basically means we can have 10 of them running off of one single gas turbine. So that's for the ethanol. Instead, for the sulfuric acid, which we still haven't made, I believe, looking at our reformate line, I finally discovered the intended use for coal tar, because we can distill this into hydrogen sulfide, and these we can simply react with oxygen to produce sulfuric acid. So this basically cuts down the recipe into 2 steps. And this is also the area we're gonna build the plastic line is, because we have the oxygen and we have the coal tar. And for that, as you can see, we've already got basically all the machinery we're gonna need here. So in total, we're just gonna need 5 breweries, an advanced distillery, a basic distillery. Then we're also gonna need a couple of gas turbines, And finally, the last machine we need is gonna be an advanced chemical reactor. Okay, so the idea is gonna be to have the LV distillery go into the LV chemical reactor, and then into the advanced chemical reactor. From here, we're gonna get the ethylene. And instead, for the ethanol side, we're gonna have to get the biomass into the distillery, and I guess the breweries are gonna be able to sit here. This is basically all done already. Everything is powered, and that should be everything for the piping. Never mind, we also need water. Okay, they're all firing and producing biomass, which is then getting into the distillery, which is gonna distill it into ethanol. So we can set the fluid output to the side for the coal tar instead. Alright, and for this we are gonna need the circuit number 2. Then we need to grab the oxygen from this system. Okay, so now with circuit number 2, we can start producing sulfuric acid, and also we are gonna need a super chest for the coke test as well. And here we are already starting to produce ethylene. And alright, here we are producing our first bit of ethylene, as well as diluted sulfuric acid, for which I don't think there's anything we want from. And also we are missing the last chemical reactor to make polyethylene. And the chemical reactor. So we can just have the turbine here, the chemical reactor here, connecting into the reformate line. Then I also want an electric pump and a fluid filter, and here we should be able to place ethylene as a whitelist. So from the back we can say there's gonna be a pump which is only gonna work on ethylene. So when this gets produced, when this process runs, the diluted sulfuric acid is gonna go into this super tank, and instead the ethylene is all gonna go into the chemical reactor. And now we are just missing the oxygen, and the system is done. We are just missing the circuit, and we are finally cooking. Liquid plastic. The left side of the MV page is complete. And liquid plastic is basically going to replace Bakelite. As you can see, it's used for the same recipes in smaller quantity. And aside from unlocking new recipes, because we cannot go with Bakelite forever, it also improves old recipes, such as diodes, which we use the liquid glass for, getting us 2 diodes using annealed copper. Now, with liquid polyethylene and annealed copper, we can get 4 diodes per batch. I'm fairly sure we're gonna have this all the way into the next 2 or 3 voltage tier at least. And now comes the second and probably longest objective of this episode, and also the longest until now in MV, which is gonna be crafting the high temperature precision fabricator. The reason we want this is because we're gonna need to start making chips to advance. This is gonna unlock better circuits and are also gonna be straight up needed to make HV circuits. And the precision fabricator works with 3 machines basically, which are gonna be the cutter, the fabricator, and the laser engraver. These should not be too bad to make. This machine is mostly Invar and sterling silver, so it's not too bad, but it's still a multi-block and it's gonna be kind of a pain to actually make. Although before that, we are gonna need to start making slurries, which are basically liquefying gems into liquefaction towers, which is also a really good idea in general because ruby slurry is a great way to get aluminium dust. As you can see, 4 buckets gets us 12 aluminium, and buckets are really easily reached with flawless gems and stuff. And this is a much better recipe than just electrolyzing dust. So that's gonna be the next way we start producing aluminium, because so far I've basically run our reserves dry, and I've barely got the materials ready to make the cutter and nothing else. So the last thing I want to do before going mining is upgrading our backpack. And this time I'm not gonna make the mistake of crafting anything with stuff inside, because last time we lost all of our food doing it and I don't want to lose all of our tools doing it. And the 2 upgrades I want to craft are the pickup upgrade and the void upgrade. These are basically gonna be used in combo, so that when we go mining, all the rocks get picked up automatically from the backpack and they all get voided automatically. Also, since the last clip, I've slightly updated our factory. As you can see, the phenolic resin line is gone, And I've also drastically cut down the rubber production line. Since we are now producing raw rubber pulps from centrifuging kapok, we no longer need the other side of the line that we were using to produce vulcanized latex, and this is now the rubber production line. Instead here, I've reused one of the chemical reactors from the phenolic line to add it to our production line. Instead here, you can see our polyethylene line has been running. It's currently 50 buckets. And I've also added a packer. This packer here is just turning sticks into stick bundles. And therefore, our pyrolysis ovens are no longer only running on wood. As you can see, we just ran out of sticks. And we've still got a bunch of logs. And sadly, it is winter right now, which means sometimes the machine gets stuck. And now, to actually craft our upgrades, we are just gonna need some brass pipes, ender dust, wrought iron screws, a red alloy gear, any cogwheels, any belts, a mechanical arm, which is just a bunch of brass and iron, and some ULV components. Man, it's been 5 million years since the last time I've made a precision mechanism. But alright, these should be everything we need for the upgrades. The first thing we need to craft is the mechanical arm, and then we should just be able to craft them as is. These go here. So now anytime we go mining, I'm gonna be able to set the void filter for the rocks we're mining in the moment, so our inventory is gonna stay clear. Also, since the last episode, I did a live stream in which I basically just prepared a bunch of stuff that we used in this episode. After that live stream, I also finally added some windmills to our windmill, and I've also removed the kitchen, mainly because I didn't really like the way it came out, and we still didn't have a use for the windmill. So now, aside from the lack of lighting, as you can see, we've got two axes going down here. These are both the windmills that you can see outside here. And I'm basically using them to power some food processing stuff, such as this oven, this food processor, and I'm using these to prepare our food now because it's so much more handy. Okay, yeah, I just checked into our stock keeper. And this is the borax I just went to mine, and this was the borax we had in our stock. I want to craft the next machine we're gonna need, which is the cutter, and for this, the only piece we are missing currently is the vanadium steel buzzsaw, for which we should be able to just use 2 plates. Although no, okay, we need a lathe, more specifically an MV lathe. Okay, no, for this we need a bunch more infrastructure. We at least need a forming press or a bender in MV, but before that I also want to reuse a part of the phenolic line, and I think we can place it here, yeah. And basically what I want to do is start distilling creosote into lubricant with circuit number 1, and the main reason we're gonna want so much lubricant is gonna be to increase the speed at which the cutter is able to operate. It's been a few hours since the last recording, and I realized since I'm no longer showing any of the process I do to get all the stuff I make, as you can see here, I've got a whole bunch of stuff prepared and I'm gonna explain what I'm going to do really soon. But to give you an idea of just how much time it's taken me to get here, you can see we are currently teetering on day 660 and our total playtime is sitting at 7.9 basically, which means it's roughly 190 hours. So it's finally time to approach all of this. The first step is getting a cutter. So I prepared the components for a lathe, but to use it we're gonna need a double plate, so I also prepared the stuff for an MV bender. So those are the first 2 machines we're gonna prepare now, and they are here. I don't recall, I think this is the lathe, and these should be the bender, so we can simply go here and craft them. These 2 machines are basically gonna replace the belt grinder and the rolling mill, and I think I'm gonna place them behind here. So now we can just grab 2 ingots of vanadium, throw them in the bender. Oh, we can already make double plates. Okay, so let's go with circuit 2. Then, if we lathe this, here's our vanadium steel buzzsaw blade, which means we can now craft the cutter. And this one, I think I'm gonna place in this area, because we are gonna need the lubricant. This distillery is basically working for 2 reasons. One is the lubricant, and sometimes I just leave it to produce phenol instead, because we still need this for the MV circuits. And since we already have our reformate line coming over here, we can just place our cutter here as well. So we can just grab the reformate from here, and I also prepare the stuff for some turbines, but basically I can just get the cutter to sit here and automatically input the lubricant. And now the next step would be building the high temperature precision fabricator, for which I've already prepared, I think, everything. But before that, I actually want to build another liquefaction tower. As you can see, these are the components for the control block. And the reason we want a third one is because we also need a liquefaction tower for processing gems. We cannot just have the two we're using to run the reformate line, which by the way is currently sitting at 3,300 buckets of reformate. And for these, we're gonna want our output. Can I have our input bus on the bottom? I wouldn't want to have to go all the way to the top to place it. And I also totally forgot to craft the metal girders. And I'm missing a single solid machine casing. Okay, hopefully this is enough. It's not. I think it doesn't want any input on the bottom side. Yeah, now we need maintenance. Instead for the power, we're just gonna use some LV gas turbines. And these should be enough. We should just require 1 LV amp. We can grab the reformate from here. And now we also need to bring the hydrogen, for which I think this is closer. Sadly, I don't think there's a nice and neat way to bring it. So for now, this is gonna have to do. And the reason I built this is because if we now go and grab all of our ruby, we should be able to start liquefying it. This is gonna require circuit number 4, at least for the big rubies. Alright. And this is gonna take 67 seconds. I didn't decide the timing, I'm sorry. The dirty ruby slurry is gonna be our best source of aluminium dust going forward. All of these slurries are gonna be our best source of aluminium dust. Ruby is likely gonna have the best ratio, but also for the lenses. To make the lenses, now we're gonna need a bucket of the slurry of that gem. Lenses for which we're gonna need a worked optical borosilicate blank, for which we're just gonna need some flux, a gem saw, which is just a rod with gem powder, sandpaper, which is sand and paper, and the optical borosilicate blank, which comes from borosilicate glass, which is glass with mixed boron. And the way we're gonna get boron is gonna be by electrolyzing borax, which is simply one of the ores we've mined so far. And here's our boron. I may have miscounted a little bit, because I just noticed, and I'm not sure why I didn't think of this, but to process the ruby slurry, we also need an advanced centrifuge. And I'm almost totally out of aluminium. That's why I was making the slurry. I just need the materials from the robot arms for whatever it was. It was the high temperature precision fabricator. I need this. And everything else we should still have. I did prepare a whole bunch of circuits. So alright, crisis averted. Although that was pretty poor planning. But now we also have the boron and the glass, so we can start making the borosilicate. And we're not gonna need a lot of this. In fact, I'm actually gonna go stop the machine right now, because we only need like half a stack, I think, total. Instead, we can get a rod and some dust from a gem. So now we should be able to craft sandpaper, as well as a gem saw. Okay, we need to grind this one more time. And then we also need flux. And we also need a casting mold, because we need to turn this into blanks. And I think we just fill in the corners. Alright, now with our fuser, we're gonna get all the blanks we need. No, we're not. Okay, new machine I didn't account for. We need an advanced alloy smelter, but that's fine. We're gonna craft the centrifuge now. So this means aluminium should no longer be a problem. We can just go and grab all of this ruby slurry, get it into the centrifuge, and 20 buckets is gonna be 60 aluminium dust. So getting aluminium now is gonna be a breeze. Okay, now that I'm cooking up all the aluminium dust we've got, I also want to craft the mechanical arms I had prepared the materials for, as well as the transmitter for the laser engraver. Because although I prepared all of this stuff, I still didn't account for everything. Which just means sometimes something comes up and I'm lacking the materials for it because I didn't know I was going to need it. Such as this alloy smelter. But now we can already craft it, and this can go back here as well. So now we should be able to prepare the borosilicate blanks. Now these we're gonna need to work into lenses in the artisan table, although I don't think... Okay, no, there is a slight shape here. It's the same as the cylinder. So if we go here, throw this here, 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 and here. Something like this. That seems to be one-to-one to me, but... Okay, I don't know what's going on there, so for now I instead want to move on to crafting and building the high-temperature precision fabricator, of which the first step is gonna be getting the control block, as per usual. But although before that I need to craft the precision casing, which are simply made with sterling silver plates and invar frames. 20 should be enough. So now we can craft the control block, and I have no clue how big this thing is. It's not really big, although that's not the correct orientation for our factory. We can place this on the second floor. Yeah, we've got so much space here. Here. And down here I've prepared all the materials we need for this. As per usual, this is nothing new. So now it's just a matter of following the chart here. Although I just noticed we are missing one block, which is the quartz crucible. We just need a crucible, for which I'm gonna reuse the one from our forge, because at this point in the game it's no longer able to even melt the materials we're using. So we can just go to our basic arc furnace and cook. Oh, don't tell me this requires an MV arc furnace. Oh no. I mean, this is nothing bad, but I'm also finally out of MV circuits, and I actually thought I was done with making machinery before the precision fabricator. Oh, come on. Also, quick update on the borosilicate thing, which we didn't lose. That's amazing. The reason it wasn't working is because the recipe was the opposite. Alright. So now I have to go and make an arc furnace. But before that I want to place all the blocks we need here. Okay, now that's basically everything aside from the quartz thing. Now let's make some more circuits, and as you can see I'm now using soldering alloy because when mining in the beneath for silver I found a galena and lead vein, so I've made a whole bunch of soldering alloy, which is basically a better option than tin to make circuits and soldering stuff. And the recipe, as you can see, is 6 parts tin, 3 parts lead and 1 part antimony. So we basically use a little bit less tin and some other stuff to make a soldering alloy that allows us to consume less materials overall. Now I also need some more 4x copper nickel, and we are now able to make the advanced alloy smelter, which looks one-to-one to the arc furnace, alright. But this thing allows us to make not that, and not this one it seems. Right, we need oxygen, of course. Oh no. This thing looks one-to-one because it is one-to-one. I made another alloy smelter. Oh, I'm actually stupid. The recipe required for graphite as well. I forgot about that. Can I throw this in here and recover the things? I hope so. We need to craft another one. Okay, now this is the arc furnace, which does not look one-to-one to the alloy smelter. And finally, with a little bit of oxygen, we can go and make our quartz crucible. Oh, it's also not consumed. Okay, so we can make many of these. Alright, and this should be everything we were missing to finish the precision fabricator. So the crucible should just go here, the coils here, and alright. And my first question is, can I move this extremely badly placed energy hatch and place it right next to the other one? Which makes a whole lot more sense to me. So now I can just make this LV hatch, and I was thinking that instead of using a gas turbine generator, we still have a steam one left over, and we are right on top of the large bronze boiler. So we might as well grab the power from there, it's so much closer. Okay, we've now got power. Our high temperature precision fabricator is finally online. Now, after this, we are also gonna need a laser engraver, and I've already got the materials for it, so we can simply grab this, alongside our MV emitter and get the advanced laser engraver. We're basically going to use these alongside the lenses to engrave the silicon wafers with a specific circuit, I think. And now we are just missing one piece of this whole process, which is the polysilicon line. This line basically makes use of two chemical reactors alongside an electrolyzer to turn silicon into polysilicon. And the cool thing about this is that if you set it up correctly, you can make it so that it becomes a closed loop, and every piece of silicon you throw in automatically gets turned into polysilicon dust. And I actually went in creative to develop this system, so I just need to grab the materials we need to make it. And also I think the laser engraver can just go here and sit beside the cutter, because these babies are gonna work in tandem. And luckily, now that we're working with centrifuging slurries, we are no longer gonna need to worry about having enough aluminium. Okay, now I think we have everything we need. Yeah, we do. Okay, now I've prepared actually everything we need, and I need to decide where to place this, because I don't really care for it to be close to the fabricator. I think here it fits properly. And don't worry, I'm going to explain what I'm about to do really soon. For now, I'm just referencing the screenshots I took. So instead, for the power, we can simply have a turbine. One turbine is gonna feed both chemical reactors, and the other one is gonna feed the electrolyzer. Okay, now, I think it's best if I explain what I'm about to do following the quest book. Because the polysilicon line is gonna be the first closed loop line we're gonna make. A closed loop is a system where every time you input a single item, you're gonna get the output without any other processing. Because the loop itself makes everything you need to remake it in byproducts, so you need to recycle what you're producing. And the first step is gonna be combining silicon dust, hydrochloric acid and hydrogen in a chemical reactor to make chlorosilane and trichlorosilane. Then we need to react all of this in a second chemical reactor, and after that we're gonna electrolyze all the outputs into polysilicon dust. After which we're gonna send everything back to the first chemical reactor, where the process is gonna start again. So to kick off this loop, we're gonna need 6 buckets of hydrochloric acid, 4 buckets of hydrogen gas, and 4 pieces of silicon dust. This is gonna give us chlorosilane and trichlorosilane, which we are gonna react together into dichlorosilane and silane. These two we are going to electrolyze in the electrolyzer to get chlorine gas and hydrogen gas, which we're gonna send back to the beginning to remake the hydrochloric acid, and also electrolyze the silane to get the 4 buckets of hydrogen gas again, and the polysilicon dust, which we're just gonna collect. So now I think we can start with making the acid. So this is gonna be our 6 buckets of hydrochloric acid alongside the first 4 pieces of silicon dust. And now we can also already set up our fluid filters. One is gonna whitelist the hydrochloric acid, and the other one is gonna blacklist the hydrochloric acid. So on this side we're gonna have the output, and we are not gonna let the hydrochloric acid pass. Instead, on the other side, we're gonna have a pump, which is gonna give us a second output, and this one is just gonna let the hydrochloric acid pass. And now we can just add the hydrogen, and if we set the circuit number 1, we're gonna start producing the first output, which has now output here, so we can connect this instead to the back. And now that we've got both our silicon and our polysilicon, we can go and make a whitelist for each, and the polysilicon is just gonna output into a crate, and instead the normal silicon is gonna be sent back through a conveyor module back to the beginning. And also all the fluids are also getting sent back, where they are gonna combine again into hydrochloric acid. And now if we begin the process again, the outputs are not working. Okay, I forgot to set the filtered. Now it works. So now, if I throw a piece here, after the whole process is done, we should be left with just enough material to require a single piece of silicon dust again. Precisely. So now that means I can just throw a stack of silicon dust in here, and eventually we're gonna get a stack of polysilicon dust out of it. So this is a closed loop machine. And I really do think I could cut this down to one chemical reactor. I might try that in creative, but for now it's finally time to make some chips, because we've now got everything we need to start producing them. The first step is gonna be making a silicon boule. For this we're gonna need some gallium arsenide, a silicon seed crystal. We need an autoclave. Okay, no, it's not time to make. Okay, luckily the autoclave is basically free. So now I can go here, grab some distilled water that I just started making with our distillery, and start producing the silicon crystals. I'm using distilled water because normal water gives you a 75% chance, and since this is basically free, we might as well bypass the RNG and just make the normal crystals. We also need more quartz crucibles, and since the normal crucible doesn't get consumed, we can just go here and start making them. Aside from that, we also need a holder rod. It seems to be any kind of gem rod. And then we need liquid polysilicon. 4.6 buckets, that's such a specific amount. That's half a stack of polysilicon. Okay, wow, that's so expensive. I guess we're gonna need for the polysilicon to process before we're able to make it. We don't currently have enough polysilicon dust. In the meantime, we can also go and start making some gem rods. And while we wait for the polysilicon to process, we can also start preparing the lenses, for which we're just gonna need the borosilicate blanks, basically a slurry of each gem, diamond, ruby, emerald and sapphire. A single bucket should be enough. And that's it, so that's a lot cheaper. And we can get exactly a bucket of each of these, simply by using a normal gem and a flawless gem. And as we wait, we can already make the ruby lens, for which we need at least 2 inputs. Okay, never mind, we cannot use a ULV input bus. We are gonna need at least an LV input bus. So now we can throw in a rod, a lens, input the slurry, voltage tier too low. Okay, we need to operate at MV, so we also need 2 LV energy hatches. So now we can just add the piping, and we should be online. We are not. Right, I forgot we can actually just use a battery buffer for this. So if I just come here and place these like these, we can then have this steam turbine powering it. So now this should work, but we lost the recipe. Alright, let's get a new one. So let's go with a sapphire lens. Okay, it's finally working. And the battery buffer is gonna last more than 2 minutes, so we are finally producing some lenses. In the meantime, we've also got enough polysilicon dust to finally make a boule, so now the only bottleneck is gonna be this precision fabricator, because this is gonna take a while. Here is our sapphire lens. Luckily, we only need one of each lens, so that means we don't need to do this every single time. And now we should also be able to make a boule. First, we're gonna need half a stack of liquid polysilicon, then we need some gallium arsenide, then we need a quartz crucible. Also, I've now added a steam turbine because this is gonna take more than 6 minutes, according to the quest book. But if I now go here and throw everything in... Alright, we are now making our very first monocrystalline silicon boule. In terms of power, we are gonna run out in 12 minutes, so that means we are getting more than enough. After we get the silicon boule, we are gonna use the cutter to get wafers from it. And once we get wafers, we're gonna be able to use our lenses to engrave something on them. For example, the sapphire lens is gonna allow us to make ULPIC wafers, with which we're gonna be able to make our first MV energy hatches. And these are a very important component that doesn't seem to get the recognition it deserves, because they're gonna allow us to upgrade our EBF to HV. That means we're gonna be able to finally start producing stainless steel, which, as steel was for LV, aluminium for MV, it's gonna be the main metal for HV. We are also gonna be able to make Cantal coils, which is gonna be a whole ordeal in itself, which is not gonna happen in this episode, although the next episode might already be the last one for MV. I don't know how much of a toll making Cantal coils is gonna be. Okay, here it is, our very first silicone boule, and before working it, I want to start preparing the other lenses we're gonna need, starting with the diamond one. What we can do now is cut this up into wafers, which is gonna take 20 seconds. And now we can instead use the laser engraver. I guess I'm gonna work them in 4s, because I don't know how many of each I'm gonna need. And when we cut them again, we're gonna get 6 chips. And these chips are gonna be the way forward for us. I've already explained the ULP-IC ones, but for example the IC chips, which we can get with the Ruby lens, are gonna be necessary to make HV circuits and also better LV circuits, because with these circuits we're gonna be able to make double the amount of MV circuits, and this kind is straight up required to make the HV one, alongside also the RAM chips, which requires the emerald lens, and as you can see, we are basically gonna need every kind of chip there is, which is why I'm making every kind of lens there is. Here we've got our first wafer, and now if we cut this again, we can finally get our first chips. And each one of these is gonna require a ULP-IC chip. But this now means that we can run our EBF at HV tier. So that means we can also finally get stainless steel and our first HV machine hull, which I'm not sure what we would use it for, but what I do know is that I'm just getting ahead of myself. Because for this episode I think we've done quite enough. We've finally got the precision fabricator, as well as a new liquefaction tower to process aluminium dust, and a polysilicon line, which are all gonna be fundamental to progress. In the next episode, we are finally gonna make Cantal coils, and we're gonna upgrade our EBF, and also probably make some more, because one is definitely not gonna cut it. And after that, we are finally gonna unlock the MV components, the transistor and the capacitor, after which it's finally gonna be time to start making our first HV circuits, which, as you can see, are gonna require a whole bunch of chips to make. But that's for the next episode. For this one, I thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, a comment and subscribe. As per usual, a massive thank you to our channel members: Chosnik, Cycle, Inkling, Marcos Janet, Zordrip, New Movies, Dupe, Devon Konholz, Pitblade, Andrew Podalieniec, Cryonix, Orphos, Planesdrop Plus, Jetzicato and Costas. And until the next one, see ya.